And now I'm very excited to present our featured lunch speaker, who's done so much for Austin County and Sealy. Thank you, Senator Lois Kolkhorst.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much for allowing me to be here today. I'm super excited. I do have to ask, is the microphone working? We're good. Okay, great. I'm mic'd up for him. So, before I begin speaking about what the legislature did and didn't do, we have a special honor today that we are going to present. Now, by way of history for me, I met this gentleman when I was first running for state representative way back in the year 2000. I want y'all to know that I didn't have gray hair back then. I was whopping 34 years old, had just given birth to my first child, and had this great notion that maybe it was time to give something back to my community. And so, as you know, one of our gathering places is right across the street at Tony's. And I met this little guy named Tony. And Tony is like not much taller than me, maybe even shorter than me. And I want you to know that he was, and still is to this day, full of life and was talking to me, and he was so animated about what my position was on small businesses and what I was going to do and everything else that I just almost sat and listened to him. And I said, "Is your name really Tony? And you have Tony's restaurant?" And he said, "Yes, it is." He is one of the hardest working people I have ever known in my life. It was such a pleasure that when I met with him, he, just from a personal matter, he said to me, "I'm going to put a sign up at my restaurant for you." And that takes a lot for a small business to say, "I'm going to support this young lady who's running against an incumbent, and I believe in her." That's my personal side. But I will tell you that Tony's is not a place that we just all receive food. It is a place that we gather. It is a place where we celebrate. It is a place where we share ideas. People meet there. There are people that drive through from all over Texas, and they go, "Let's stop at Tony's," right? And so since 1936, this place called Tony's has entertained people with food and camaraderie. And I will say this too. Tony, you weren't old enough to do this. You were not the owner in 1936, which was the first year actually that the Sealy Chamber of Commerce began existing. But Tony was, I think, the fourth owner, if I'm correct on that, Tony, when we talked. But Tony took 20 years off, and he's back. He never sold Tony's. He just leased it for 20 years. Took a little bit of a respite, and now he's back, and he's ready to invest in it. He told me he's going to redo the bathrooms, he's going to redo the kitchen, and he's going to really make it a show place. And so, Tony, we have a special award for you today from the Sealy Chamber of Commerce in honor of Tony's Family Restaurant, celebrating 88 years of commitment to Sealy. Welcome back, and thank you for your lasting impact. So, Tony, join us up here at the front. Outstanding. Tony told me earlier today that he worked 7 days a week to be able to purchase it and pay it off. And so, Tony, do y'all want to gather up here? Where's our president? Give Steinbach that phone and he can take a picture. There you go. We'll make him earn his keep.
That's right.
Okay, Tony.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tony.
All right, on three. Ready? 1, 2, got it.
Awesome. Okay, hold on.
One, two.
Got it?
Thank
Okay,
you.
great.
Thank you so much.
Tony, you want to say anything?
No, Lois, I appreciate you so much, Ms. Lois, for that. And I know you for a long time, and I believe in you from the beginning. I believe in you now. And I'm anxious to hear what's going on. I was out of touch there for a while, of course. In the meantime, when I was gone for 20 years, we had 4 grandchildren that kept us busy.
Amen.
My wife and I and the family went in places that we haven't been for a long time. And now I'm committed back again. My kids are growing up, and we've got a little more brain now that they had when they were teenagers. So literally, they're all helping me, and I'm hoping my middle daughter, Irene that she finished the culinary school. Once I get the remodeling done, that she will take over and give me another break.
I love it.
I really appreciate you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
Let me tell y'all, it's just not, it's pretty rare that a business, a small business can make it 88 years. And so it's truly something to celebrate in our community. And thank you for all the memories and looking forward to more memories, Tony, at Tony's Family Restaurant. So let me begin by saying I look around the room and I see so many familiar faces. You know, Travis Abel, man, I tell you, 86 and still selling real estate. I'm going to have to get some of the water here from Sealy and drink it because there's some kind of longevity gene or something in your water here, right? And so I look around the room. I know we have two mayors. Mayor Bilski, look forward to spending the afternoon with you. We're going to do some touring and meet with our staff and get caught up. And of course, our mayor from Industry, Texas. It's great to see you, Mabel, and just thank you for everything you do. I just can't thank you enough, and looking forward to doing a ribbon cutting with you later this month over there at the Belleville General Hospitals. So good things happening. I could almost comment about everyone in this room. And I know Cookie, where are you, Cookie? Meals on Wheels. She reminded me of when I was out here at the church, Christian City, and I went to a women's gathering. And we shared that spiritual experience together. And she worked for Meals on Wheels, and that's something that we fund in the state budget. So today I'd love to cover every little bit of that, but y'all would be here into the night. And so I won't do that. I've got my phone here to make sure I don't talk too long. I want to introduce two of my staffers with us today. You always know it's an important speech when you have two staffers with you. And so one of our longtime members of our team, it's your team, Paula Gibson. She covers Sealy for us. Now, I want to tell you all about Paula. Paula really handles the Fort Bend area. Gary Gillum, who's my constituent in Fort Bend County, and he does a great job with his pest control and also being super involved in all the communities that he serves. Thank you, Gary, for what you do. But I will tell you that Paula, really, Austin County's not in her district, but she just likes Sealy so much that she comes all the time. So give it up for Paula, right? And then my longtime chief of staff, Chris Steinbach, who hails his family roots hail from Sealy, Texas. Your mom was born and raised here, wasn't she? Cat Spring, but she went to school in Sealy, and so did his Aunt Margie. And so I will tell you that whenever we're talking about different things in Sealy, he goes, "Oh, that's my cousin." Reinhardt's my cousin. Reichardt's my cousin. And so I will tell you that the Sealy ISD and the president of the Sealy ISD board has a direct line to our office. He calls Chris and he gripes about him pretty regularly. And we'll cover what we didn't get done during the last session. But I want to talk about what we did get done during this last session. So let me jump right into it. I'm going to start with local first. I have to brag. I see Frank Monk over here in the journey of making San Felipe de Austin historic site truly one of the premier stops for Texas history. I have to say, Judge Bilski, now Mayor Bilski, what a journey. What a journey. When I first started representing y'all and I went out there, and we really were kind of a ragtag team out there, weren't we? We kind of had a general store. We really didn't have any site. And I mean, like literally, William Barrett Travis left San Felipe de Austin to go and conduct the Alamo. I mean, the commander of the Alamo. This is where all of the land grants started and the surveying, all these different things. So when I became your state representative in 2001, one of the pledges that I made, and I'll tell you, this wasn't like a campaign promise. It was a promise to myself that we would better tell the story of Texas because it is so rare and so unique. We're not like California. We weren't purchased. There was blood that was shed for our freedoms here. And so the journey, I mean, we had little bills like, oh, can we just study it? I mean, we had the study bill, right? all the way up until finally we got millions funded. It took me to get to the Senate to really get that done. I was getting it done a little bit in the House, but the Senate, you get a little bit more done. And so I was super excited to do that. And I'll never forget Frank Monk. We were trying to purchase the land across the highway, and we just were stuck. And we had the general land office, the historic commission that was doing it, and we had a bill that we moved from Texas Parks and Wildlife, and we took, the Parks and Wildlife, we separated it from the historic site. And I'm just going to tell y'all, I've been in office 23 years, and it was a 23-year journey to get there, 2 decades plus. But I remember I called Frank once, and you have to follow all these rules if the state's going to purchase land. And we were so far apart from that landowner, it wasn't even close. And so we came up with some strategies, didn't we, Frank? And we kind of got the general land office involved, kind of got some new personalities involved. And it all worked out. We purchased those 70 acres. And now we have a site and a museum out there. And I will just tell y'all that we started out with a 50-50 public-private partnership, and it ended up going 70-30. The state picked up 70%. We totally privately funded the Villa de Austin. Jimmy and I were very proud to help contribute to that as well. And we went through a lot of different things. We think that we're going to get a land donation that is very key to that site for its future. And I will tell you too, in this current budget, we have another $1.5 million that will go to this museum for future. We're going to do some more. We're actually going to build some more out there. So I'm really excited. It is combined with Washington on the Brazos and what we're doing out there. You look at the Alamo and you look at what we're doing at our different historic sites. San Jacinto, as y'all know, we've moved the ship to restore it. The Texas battleship, it won't go back to that site because it really has no historic reference there. We'll move it more probably toward Galveston. But a lot of great things going on in telling the story of Texas. And San Felipe de Austin is right there as one of the key sites to do that. So to all of you who have had anything to do with that, raise your hand because raise your hand. Literally, look across this room. Terrific. Thank you so much for what you've done. Give them a round of applause. Could not have done it without y'all. So that is one area I wanted to touch on. I also want to touch on, thank you for your endurance on I-10. Now, how long have we been working on that? It's been a little shorter than the 23 years. I will tell you that. It has been shorter, but to date, $430 million spent on 11 miles of I-10 to make it go from 4-lane to 6-lane with continuous one-way frontage roads. This has been substantially completed. It is not quite completed as I've talked to TxDOT, but I remember, I think I was at the Turnverine over here many years ago, and a lady came up to me, she was almost in tears, and she said, "Do you travel I-10 on Sundays?" And I go, "Well, no, ma'am, I don't go back and forth to Austin that way." And as God would have it, and I do mean it was God, I had to go to Galveston. And it happened to be on a Sunday because I was going down there for a conference. And I traveled I-10 on a Sunday. And it didn't go very well. And so having said that, it's been a journey to get that done as well. Nothing happens overnight, but if you are persistent, and that's what I want to say to Sealy, and to every place that I represent, you have to stay persistent and you have to have a vision. So super excited about this getting done. They're almost going to pull up all the barriers and the cones and everything else. And it's a safety, not only convenience, but it is a safety. Y'all know how many fatalities we had on this stretch of I-10. So congratulations on that. And I thank the local leadership for putting up with us. I will just tell you that the Yoakum district of which you're in, and when Judge Bilski was the judge, the first thing that I did when I became your state representative in 2001 was I threatened to carry a bill in 2001 to move Austin County from the Yoakum district to the Bryan district because they weren't doing any good for y'all. Holy mac. I'm telling you, I kicked over that anthill. But you know what? Things got better after that. And so the Yoakum district, in 2023, allocated $1.9 billion. In 2024, it will have been allocated $2.6 billion, an increase of $700 million from 2023. So look in the Yoakum District, which is substantially in Senate District 18, not exclusively, but substantially some major increases. And again, we travel these highways. We want them to be safe. Convenience is wonderful, but we also want to keep people safe. So those are two areas that I wanted to cover very quickly on the local front. The next thing I want to cover very quickly is taxes. Woo! They say you're going to be born, you're going to die, and you're going to pay taxes, right? Well, Texas is blessed, and I do mean blessed. This last session, we saw a $36 billion surplus. That is your money, mainly derived from sales taxes. That's how we fund the state of Texas, is really through a 6.25% sales tax. Yeah, there's some fees out there and some other things, but mostly derived from that. We fund your local government mostly, not exclusively, through property taxes, and our school districts, about 50-50 now on property taxes versus what the state sends to our school districts. So let me just put it in perspective where Texas's economy is. If we were a nation, we have moved to the number 8 position in the world. So we would be the 8th largest economy in the world. I believe that's larger than Russia right now, and right behind France. That's where Texas is alone itself. Now, I will say that that's good news and bad news. It really makes us a world player, right? Good news, bad news again. Number 1 state for one-way U-Hauls. Can I say that again? Number 1 state for one-way U-Hauls. So that means people are moving here. And they're moving here from other states. And they're coming here for, I think, the economic climate and what we're seeing happening in other states. So while Texas took $36 billion and gave $18 billion back to you as taxpayers, and I'll get to that in just a second, California, it is predicted this year, will have a $58 billion, some people predict $68 billion shortfall. If you look at the swing of that, that's $100 billion difference between these two very large states that are the economic engines of the United States. So pretty sobering. We're doing things very differently than other states. In fact, people are saying $18 billion may be the largest tax cut in the history of the United States by any state. And I believe that. So how did it come to you? Okay. I'm just going to give you a quick story and it'll help you realize. Now listen, y'all know that Lois Kate was 11 months old the day I announced to run for state representative and represent Austin County, right? Well, Lois Kate now is, it's hard for me to say, 25 years old. And she's gainfully employed, everybody. She's gainfully employed, working and doing her own thing. She bought a car the other day on her own, qualified for a loan. Man, I'm telling you, she's learning, right? Lois Kate desperately wants to own a house. She's up in Dallas, Fort Worth. I don't know if y'all have checked those prices lately, but they're sky high. And I keep saying, honey, I know what you get paid and you can't get a home right now. But I said, keep saving because your down payment will one day help you afford that. And hopefully interest rates will come back to us. Now, the bankers in the room kind of cringe, but I'm on both sides of that. I work with a bank. I'm on a bank board, but I like it when interest loans are low for the consumer. So this summer, you know, we're all those special sessions. Lois Kate's no fool. She knows when she gets to go on vacation with mom and dad that mom and dad kind of pay for it, right? She started to see her summer evaporate, right? Like we were always in a special session. In fact, by the time we finished in December, we'd served longer than any other legislature in the history of Texas. History says 2003 was the next longest, and then 1897 was the next longest after that. So that puts it in perspective. She goes, Mom, y'all keep arguing over this property tax thing. She goes, the House wants compression and the Senate wants homestead exemption. I go, that's right, Lois Kate, you're listening, good girl. And she goes, well, I don't understand. What's the difference? So I kind of go through this long explanation about compression. And I basically go, we're going to compress the tax rate down. We're going to give that money to the school district, but we're going to make their rates go down so you pay less in property taxes. And I went through this whole thing. She goes, okay, all right. Then what's this homestead exemption thing? And I said, oh, okay, well, I said, we're going to take homestead exemption from $40,000 to $100,000. And so, Lois Kate, if you were able to buy a $300,000 house, basically you would only pay taxes on a $200,000 house. She goes, ooh, I get that. Do that one, Mom. That's easier to explain. So in the end, we did both. We did 10.7 cents of compression, and we did $100,000 in homestead exemption. You confirmed that through, it had to be a constitutional amendment. You said yes to that. And then the good news for Sealy ISD is they give you another 10%. So on that $300,000 home, you're not paying on $200,000. You're only paying on $170,000. So that is substantial savings. It averages out about $1,300 for a homeowner, depending on the size of the house. So that is substantial savings. I had one constituent call me the other day. She is over 65 and she's saving about $3,000 less than what she paid in taxes last year. That'll get your attention. So the other thing that I think we talk a lot about the property taxes, but what we don't talk about to Tony and other small businesses in the room is the franchise tax reduction. So during this session, we took your franchise tax, and I see Jeff nodding his head. I know that you don't sell those tractors anymore, but you used to. And we took that franchise tax from $1.235 million. So since I've been in the Senate, we gave a deduction of $1.235 million. And if you were below that, you didn't pay it. If you were above it, you deducted it. We doubled it this session. So $2.47 million. So if your gross receipts are $2.47 million or less, you pay zero franchise tax. Here's the best part. You don't even have to remit to our comptroller, Glenn Hager, anything. You don't even have to do a form. If you make over $2.47 million, it's a straight line deduction. So that is really good. What that meant was 67,000 small businesses will not be paying franchise tax this year. And so that's super good. It keeps the money in the pocket of that business owner who can pay higher salaries, who can meet the demands of inflation and other things. So I'm excited about that. Let's talk about border. Woo! Are we in the news or what? Right? We are in the news. Texas is in the news. I'll get to that in just a second about, I was with Governor Abbott this week, and he gave a great talk, but I'm just going to put it in his perspective how much the state of Texas, you as a taxpayer, you as a constituent are paying to protect and to make a difference on the border. When I went to the Senate in 2015 and you voted to allow me to go represent you in the Texas Senate, for the first time ever, we put $800 million in the budget to protect the border. That's 2015. Okay. Next time, that's over a 2-year budget. The next time I went back, we did the same thing in 2017. We did the same thing in 2019. So 800, 800, 800, right? If you want to calculate that, you can. Okay. In 2021, we upped that to a little over $2 billion. 2021, Texas said, we have a problem. The current administration in D.C. has opened this border up, and we are fighting human trafficking, and we are fighting drug trafficking, and we are fighting a lot of different things on that border with our DPS and our Texas State Guard and our local sheriffs and your local law enforcement. 2023, the budget that we just passed, appropriates between that and the special sessions $6.6 billion. Wow. $1.5 billion of that will go to continue to build a border wall. And that comes in the form of what you've seen, the big steel walls, but it also comes in the form of wire and buoys in the river and different things that the federal government's trying to say that we can't do. And so it also, a lion's share of that goes to hiring our state guard. You have to pay your state guard to go down and protect. So just yesterday, Senate Bill 4 of the third call session which should have passed in the regular session. It died at the very end in the House, but we got it done during special session. Has to do with increasing the penalties for human smugglers from 2 years to a mandatory 10 years. We're going to lock you up. If you are caught smuggling humans across that border in any way, we're going to lock you up for 10 years. If you run a stash house, we're going to lock you up for a minimum of 10 years. I think y'all should clap for that because I'm super proud of that, because we cannot tolerate human trafficking. We cannot tolerate people using children the way they are, using women, using boys. We're done with this in Texas. So that actually became law just yesterday. Senate Bill 4 of the, Chris, fourth or fifth called session, will become law on, I believe it is March the 5th. And what is that? That is the toughest immigration law in the United States. And it basically gives your local law enforcement, anyone in law enforcement, the ability to arrest someone who has not come to Texas legally through a port of entry. So they will be detained at least for 6 months. They will be given a chance to go back to the country from which they came, or if they are recurring and habitual about this, which we see, we will lock you up for a very long time. So that is where we are in trying to push back. Meanwhile, I will tell you that the governor, I was with him, like I said, on Monday, continues to promise that we will take busloads and we will send it to the sanctuary cities. The hypocrisy of New York and Chicago and other states who say they're a sanctuary city, saying we don't want any more, work with us here. Because Chris and I were figuring it out, and I think yesterday, Chris, a meeting you attended for me in Houston yesterday, I think between 2022 and 2023, we have had,
I think since Biden's been in office, it's three Houston, Texas have come across that border. Those are the ones we know about. So Houston is, y'all know, 3 to 4 million. This is large. We have never seen this. 2023 broke all records with about 2.3, 2.4 million that came across. That does not include our gotaways. So we don't even know. And the sad thing is we don't know who's coming across that. So, and then, of course, you saw the Supreme Court ruling, and you also heard what Governor Abbott said. Now, Governor Abbott is a really good judge and a really good lawyer, and invoking certain parts of the Constitution. This will be a classic battle that will go all the way back through the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court just did a temporary issuance. It is going to continue to work itself through the Court of Appeals all the way to the Supreme Court. And it will determine whether or not the states have the ability to protect themselves or not. And that is something that I think is I think Texas is the tip of the spear. Arizona had attempted that in the past. I will say that since we've taken over Shelby Park, the governor reported, and I think he was there on Sunday, he said we had thousands crossing, and the day that he was there, we had 2. So something's working, right? And so one of the things that anytime I talk to Border Patrol, and they're great people and they're federal employees, it is the message that you're sending back to these countries. And I want to tell y'all, this is not about Mexico. These are people crossing our border from all over the world. I was privy to something in the other day where we have Chinese nationals coming across in droves. I don't know how that happens. We're not contiguous to Yemen or China or all of these other countries. So we have a real problem on our border, and Texas is attempting to do something about it. I want to jump to the grid, the electrical grid. So January, y'all know it got really cold. When it gets really cold, lawmakers like Lois Kolkhorst get really nervous since February of 2021, and we should. How did we get to this point, and what are the solutions? So in 2021, y'all know Winter Storm Uri. You could call it Snowmageddon. You can call it a lot of different things. It was a terrible time for all of us. And what it did was it exposed our weaknesses in the grid, whether that's winterization at our plants, whether it's natural gas Mayor Bilski, and how that flows or doesn't flow, why we depend so much on non-thermal, which is called renewables, what happened to our thermals, the need for more thermals. So Chris was at this conference for me yesterday. I sent 2 of my senior staffers while I was in different parts. And one of the things that a Rice professor said, it doesn't matter how much renewable that you put out there, you're always going to have thermal backup. Why? Hey, I will bet y'all $1,000 and give you 10-to-1 odds right now if you'll take this bet. What is solar putting on the grid tonight at midnight? Altogether? 0, right? Right? And so you know, the next thing would be, oh, Senator, what about batteries? Yep. Okay. I like batteries. It represents about 1.2% of what we're getting right now, 1.2%. So if you look at the last winter storm, which I did, and I screenshot the different times, peaks are always in the morning and always in the evening. Lots of reasons for that. In the morning, you've got industry coming online. You've got schools coming online. You've got a ton of things like that coming online. They're ramping up their operations. The other peak is in the evening. Why? Because we all go home. We turn on our heat or our electricity in those hot days. We're washing our clothes. We're operating like that, right? And so the challenge is morning and evening, right? All throughout that storm, I would screenshot what was going on the grid. And, you know, in those peak times, renewables represented about 8 to 10%. The rock star, of course, was natural gas at averaging about 68% at those peak times. Nuclear, about 6.6%. If you look at battery, about 1.2%. And believe it or not, coal, we still have some coal operating in Texas, 18%. So if we had an edict that came from Washington, D.C. that said, get rid of all your coal today, guys, we have a huge hole. We have a huge hole in our, we can't do that right now. It's 18% at those peak times. So what are we doing about it? You voted in $5 billion that we will use as a revolving loan, low interest loan to help spur on more thermal. We have got to get more thermal. Hopefully battery will help one day. The only concern I have is where do rare earth materials come from? Russia and China, lands controlled by Russia and China. Probably not a great deal for America right now, right? And so if you look at the future, what do you have to have? You have to have thermal. How far away are we from getting that in the ground? Ooh, 2, 5 years probably. That's an issue. Now, I am going to be a part of an announcement that's coming that is going to talk about natural gas cogen in Senate District 18. We do have some nuclear coming eventually online. Nuclear takes forever, but down in Seadrift area in Senate District 18. So there is hope out there. So I just wanted to cover that. It's not perfect. We're a long way from it being solved, but we have passed a ton of bills to jumpstart this and get thermal. You'll watch other countries starting to migrate away from the renewables and back to thermal, baseline reliable energy. And then finally, I'll take a couple of questions. Mental health. I am the chair of Health and Human Services. This last session, we dedicated billions of dollars to do more for mental health. I was a part of a plan. I got to be the architect of a plan that's going to spend $2.3 billion of your dollars building new mental health beds across our great state of Texas. That's not just civil beds, it's forensic beds as well. When we have somebody that is waiting for competency restoration, they are sitting in your county jails and you are paying for them because there's not a mental health bed to get them to competency so they can stand trial. That is wrong. That is wrong. We have an assumption in our country that is you are innocent until proven guilty. You shouldn't sit in a jail for forever to get your mental competency restored. So of those beds, 50% of them, it's roughly 400 new beds will be coming online in the next 5 to 7 years. 50% of those will be forensic beds. They will be designed so that they can go to civil beds if we need them to, so they can go back and forth in those different wings. Closest that we're doing here, I put a new mental health hospital in Victoria. Super excited about that. That community wanted it. It'll be 60 beds, 30 civil, 30 forensic, and then double the amount of beds in Montgomery County from 100 to 200. Did some great work in Houston with UT Health Science Center, how we're opening up new beds over there, and then throughout the state of Texas. Man, up in that Panhandle and out in El Paso, we really didn't have enough mental health beds to serve them. So with that, I want to mention Senate Bill 24, 25, and 26, great bills from increasing our health care, increasing more nurses, HB 400, our mental health workforce that we need to increase. Since COVID, we've seen, certainly anybody from the school district can tell you our challenges with adolescent mental health care. Senate Bill 26 puts $30 million into that, and it's going to flow out to our communities to help us meet those needs, to help these children with coping mechanisms so that they can become productive members of our society. And with that, I'm looking here, it's 1 o'clock on the dot. I did a successful thing and not letting y'all ask any questions. I'm kidding you. I'll stay just for a few more minutes and take any questions. Like I said, there was a lot that we did. What we left undone was school funding. I voted 6 times to give the teachers here in Sealy ISD or Brazos or Belleville, any small school district, a $10,000 pay raise. I can't make that up. I voted 6 times in 1 year to do that, separate from education savings account. Just couldn't get it out of the House. And I'm not blaming the House. I just, it's kind of like if Jake Kolkhorst throws a bunch of balls and walks 4 people, he walked 4 people. I don't like to say that, but that's how it happened, right? And so we'll continue to work with them. We have $6 billion set aside for our public schools. The trigger is passing a bill to let that money flow to them. I read your Superintendent Brian. We have a good relationship. He's called me many times. And I read his op-ed piece, and I don't disagree with it. It's time, inflation is hitting everyone, including our businesses and our school districts. And so we have that money sitting there. I hope that we can pass a bill to trigger it. With that, take a deep breath. Any questions out there? Anybody? Yes, sir, Tony.
Is it true that I-80 will probably continue to over to 71 or Columbus?
Yes, that is the goal, is we'll continue to improve those lanes, because you will bottleneck again, right? And so the goal is we do them in segments. And I would dare say that that huge increase in what you saw in the Yoakum district will go toward that. Yes, sir.
Please convey to our governor, which I have met before, Abbott. Instead of using the buses, what if he used the railroad lines and the way we have more now?
All right, I'll pass it along, Tony. Never thought of that. As long as it's not high-speed rail, right? I'm just kidding. That's not in y'all's district. Not here. I deal with that a lot in another part of Senate District 18. Another question. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
This is exciting for me. So could you repeat back what you said about the $18 million being brought back for the tax crunch and the homestead? I want to get a video of you saying the numbers because I'm in real estate, so that's something to be screaming from the rooftops. So I'm really excited. If you could just repeat that part for me.
Yeah, I'll repeat that. So of the $36 billion surplus that we had, $18 billion will go back to the taxpayers. And that is an increase on your homestead exemption up to $100,000. So if you have a $300,000 house, you get to deduct, and it's your homestead, you get to deduct $100,000. And then also, it's the compression on your school tax rate of 10.7 pennies. So here in Sealy ISD, your tax rate is at 68 cents. I think it's 0.6811. Now, let me say this from when I started in the legislature, your maintenance and operation was $1.50. So since I've been in the legislature, we have compressed those taxes down to less than half, and they'll continue to compress. The goal is to let young people own houses. That is the American dream, and I'm going to continue to work with that. We're going to have another surplus, and we're going to continue to compress those tax rates and give homeowners a chance that they're not renting from the government, that they are actually owning their own houses.
Thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am.
us an update on Senate Bill 147F and how it's.
Yeah, great question. I'm going to spend some time with Judge Bilski. If you don't think your voice is heard, I want you. Your voice is heard. Let me put it in the positive. Your voice is heard. And before I went to session, Judge Bilski had called me. Several other people from Sealy had called me with some concerns that are going on here in Sealy. And so not just that, but I speak a lot at different Farm Bureau. I speak a lot at different activities. I have several meetings, and over again had come up the concern of large swaths of land being bought by Chinese nationals. We had 147,000, let's just say over 140,000 acres bought in South Texas by a former Chinese CCP military official next to Laughlin Air Force Base. It's not the only state that was happening in. And so we began to formulate some bills, and Senate Bill 147 basically said that you cannot buy these large amounts of lands. You can't buy our timber. You can't buy our oil and gas. You can't buy our rare earth materials. This is a national security issue. And so we refined that bill as we walked it through. We were able to get it out of the Senate. There were House members that filed very similar bills that had gotten a hearing but couldn't get it out of the State Affairs Committee. Senate Bill 147 languished in the State Affairs Committee, unfortunately. This is nothing new to any state, guys. There are, depending on how you count it, between 22 and 30 states that have land protections on countries that are our foreign enemies, keeping them from buying certain types of oil, gas, natural resources, or large swaths of land. So that was a heavily debated bill. I was in a lot of national news, but I think for the right reason. I continue to be concerned about that movement in our state and in our nation. So I stay on the national security issue. I think that we should protect farmlands. We should know who's buying our land. And how I was able to craft the bill is the Director of National Intelligence puts out a report every year and names the countries that are the biggest threats. And so that's what I tied it to. I didn't just name the country. I tied it to the threat assessment. And so right now, for 7 consecutive reports, it's China, Russia, Iran, and North Korea. And so that bill would have restricted, in the end, our farmlands and large swaths of lands being bought, plus our natural resources with people that are tied directly to those nations. I'm going to stick with that bill. I think that it's something that we must discuss. I'm all for free enterprise, but I'm for America. That's just the way it is.
We've had more and more stuff purchased, obviously, online in the last 20 years. And Glenn Hagar's office changed a ruling a few years ago that said the sales tax money would go locally. So that if I buy a computer from Dell, it doesn't go to Round Rock, it goes to Sealy, because in the old days it was a store here and the money would have been here. But Capel and a couple of those other cities have fought that because they have existing agreements. Can you tell us where you stand and where you say?
Yeah, 100%. That sales tax should go to the end user, where they purchase it. If I'm sitting out in the country in Washington County, and that's where that computer is being delivered, or ladies, I'll tell you, I wish Jimmy wasn't always home when the UPS driver and the FedEx driver comes. My clothes, I don't have time to go any longer to dress shops, although I love it. And if there's a dress shop owner in here, stay. Love that bricks and mortar because it's better. They look better when you try them on. It should go to where the destination of that product is. And so I know it's tied up in courts. I will vote every day, all day, because that is the truth. How you explained it is perfect. In the old days, we didn't have that. So you went down here to the local store. Sometimes it was not in Austin County. It might be in Houston, God forbid, or, over here, like Galleria area, whatever it was. But that sales tax where you purchase that product stayed the 2%. The 6.25% goes to the state of Texas into the big general pot so that we can operate Texas, right? And so I totally agree with you. What happened was just as you described, some of these big distribution centers cut bad deals. Not my problem. I mean, I really think this is going to hurt our local communities in the end, because you do derive, both your county and your city derive dollars, your taxpayer money. That's how they run their government as well. We'll go here and there.
Along those same lines, what do you think about tax increment reinvestment zones, TERSs? Because a lot of cities are having a really hard time with water and wastewater, but that helps them offset those costs.
Yeah, it's a tool done correctly. Definitely our TERS are a tool that have been available for a long time. Be wise. I've seen them work. I've seen them not work. So I think that's something that we depend on our locally elected leaders to make those decisions. They know their communities best. We did make some revisions to some incentives this last session, like Chapter 313 agreements that came out in HB 5. I still voted against HB 5 because, again, I think that our major large corporations, we have gotten our maintenance and operation from $1.50 down to less than half. They should help educate our children. That's all I have to say. So those we left in place, others we changed. I'm still, I want our local control to be able to make those decisions, but it is definitely available to you and can lead to good things. Yes, ma'am. Hey, how are you?
I just wanted to thank you for Senate Bill 22, and I was wondering if you could explain.
Senate Bill 22, great. So Senate Bill 22, I have to brag on the Lieutenant Governor on this one, and it's kind of like the mental health plan. I can tell you where I was standing when Governor Patrick called me and he said, hey, listen, we don't have enough mental health beds and I want you to be in charge of it. I'm going to set aside $2.3 billion, do good with it. I was like, huh! And the same thing happened when he and I started talking, and he talked to many members about this, was how we pay our local law enforcement, especially sheriffs. And note that county government, now, if Judge Lapham was here, he'll fuss at me a little bit. And I want to tell you, there's always a healthy tension between your lawmakers and your county government or your locally elected officials, because, and that's great. You don't want us to always be lockstep. Bilski used to always fuss at me about appraisal caps. I'm still for appraisal caps, Bilski. But having said that, is county government is an extension of state government by the Constitution. That is how Texas decided. We had this, just huge state, one time a country, and how were we going to, be able to patrol it and do everything else we needed? So that's how they created county government. So Governor Patrick realized that some of our sheriffs were being paid very little. I mean, like very little. And you couldn't believe it. I mean, they put on a gun every day. Their deputies were being paid very little. And he said, I think that we should create a grant program where we give our counties, our smaller rural counties, some money to increase the pay so that we can get quality people. Y'all know that being in law enforcement right now is hard. It's not just dangerous. If you use your weapon, you're probably going to go to trial in some way. And we're paying them pennies. And so that's part of what Senate Bill 22 did. But the District Attorneys Association also got involved and said, listen, it's great if we get criminals off the street, but we also have to prosecute them through the judicial branch, going through the court system. And it's really hard to get someone who has a ton of debt coming out of law school to say, oh, come be a civil servant for $35,000. You can't pay back your debt. You can, hardly live and buy food for your children. So we included the district attorney's assistants in this bill to be able to up their pay. And I know Travis Kane, the county, the DA's office has thanked me for this many, many times over. Austin County is availing itself of these monies, and they should, so that we can have quality personnel that make a valid living, a very well-deserved living, and the state is helping our smaller rural counties. So thank you for bringing that up. Senate Bill 22, great bill. Great bill. And, yes, ma'am. And then we're going to go to Don Alphen.
Okay. I run a charity,
and we are filed in the state of Texas, and we are a national charity. In California, and you said that made me think about this, Facebook is housed out of California. For us to raise funds on Facebook, we now have to be registered in the state of California. Now here's where it gets weird. If I want to get a Houston Astros baseball to be at one of my events, the company that gives those baseballs away is out of California. So I may decide I don't want to register in California for the 50,000 we get thrown off a year just in Facebook birthday campaigns, which is for us a lot, but that's still, something that's not going to lose. It's getting to where any business that is housed out of California, if we're not registered in California.
I've got two great staffers who hopefully have their notebook up and are writing this down. Chris, write that down. What's that? Yeah. Chris is going to come talk to you right after that. And this is how bills are filed.
Well, it's California. It's all California.
Well, you know how I feel about that. And let me say this. Her example there is how we file our best bills. I'm going to take y'all way back to when I was a freshman in the Texas House. I had a lady, actually it was Travis Kane that came to me and said, hey, we have a problem with a venue issue. Her identity had been stolen at a local nursing facility. She worked in a local nursing facility. Her credit card and her identity had been stolen. It was used all across Texas, okay, but most in Dallas, okay? He could not try that case here in Austin County. Why? Because the law said he had to go, the district attorney in Dallas. Now, do y'all really think that the district attorney in Dallas cared about a lady that lived in Belleville, Texas, and a little identity theft case? Absolutely not. They're too busy with all of their local cases, right? So I filed a bill to change that, to make it allowable for that wherever your identity was stolen from, kind of like the purchase of a product, that is where you can try that case. One of my favorite bills ever, one of my first bills that I ever passed was that bill because it came from an idea. So thank you for bringing that up to us. We will certainly jump all over that and look at that because that's not right. A nonprofit here in Texas should not have to register in California. Don Alphin.
I want to publicly thank you for your support for our public school retirees. The COLA that was in amendment number 9.
Yep.
And we appreciate it. It's not just our local people here, that was statewide.
That's right.
We
So
appreciate you being
thank you.
interested in your local constituents, but also statewide.
Look, he told me these were my flowers from the retired teachers. Thank you. Chris, we were talking when Chris came up and said, I think Don Alphin wants to give you those flowers. I know that you like flowers. I like doing flower arrangements, and I love flowers in my house, so thank you very much. What Don is talking about is we gave a cost of living adjustment to all of our retired teachers. It's billions of your dollars that we did. We also did a one-time stipend to the older teachers, 75 and older. Why is that? Because when they retired, they were making like $15,000, $16,000, $18,000. So their retirement is based off of that. So it was kind of a catch up and something that they can save. And then I think it's between 70 and 74, 65 and 74. I think it was, Don, 4,000, 3,500, 3,200, something like that.
Yeah, 3,500.
3,500, and then cost of living adjustment. So that will really help, especially again with the inflation numbers that we're seeing. Do y'all ever go to the grocery store? Man, I'm telling y'all, I bought that new Bluebell. I know I'm on a diet, but I bought it. I can't help it. That new cinnamon twist something or another. That brown rim, it was over $8. And I remember when you could get Bluebell for about $4. So that's just one example. That was sobering. I need to quit looking at the prices. Any other questions? I know everybody needs to get back to work to be productive. And thank y'all so much. Thank y'all for letting me represent you. I love Sealy, Texas. God bless Texas.